So the first thing I really want to cover is who transfer students are at UMass. We consider anyone who's attempted 12 or more college credits after graduating high school to be a transfer student. But in terms of transfer students at UMass, we enroll about 1,500 students every year. And that's about 1,100 students in the fall and about 400 students in the spring. So whether you're coming in for the spring semester or for the fall semester, you're not going to be alone. You're coming in with a class of other students. And unlike some smaller schools, you're coming in with that class, so there are other people going through the same experience, going through that transfer process, so you won't be alone. Especially because 1 in 5 of our overall undergraduate class are transfer students. And what that really means for you in terms of your process is not only won't you be alone, but at UMass we have tons of specific support services that are intended to support transfer students in particular. The big one I like to point out is we have an optional 1-credit transfer success seminar. It's really fantastic. It was designed by transfer students for transfer students. And it's a really great opportunity in your first semester to get connected to campus resources, to connect with other transfer students in your first semester. And it's really valuable in those first couple of weeks when you're on a new campus and you have other people to walk with to the dining hall or walk with to class or something like that. So I really recommend that. It's optional, so it's not required, but a really great example of the kinds of support services that we have specific to you as transfer students. All right, let's talk about the application process. That's obviously a big one. We have 2 different ways that students apply. We have a common application and a mass transfer application. If you're completing your associate degree in an approved associate degree program at a Massachusetts community college, you'll be a mass transfer student and will apply through that program. Otherwise, if that's not your situation, you're going to be applying for the Common App as a regular transfer student. In terms of what you need to submit, the primary things up front are going to be transcripts. If you're in your first semester right now, and let's say you're applying for spring, we would need high school transcripts because there are no college grades yet. After that point, we're just looking for college transcripts. So that's the official college transcripts from any college you've attended, whether or not you're looking to get transfer credit from those schools. And that's really it. And we'll let you know if we need any more information through the transfer process on your application student status page. That's a status page you're going to get immediately within a day of applying. It's really important that you set that up. We'll send you an email to set it up, and you'll have a checklist that will tell you, what we're looking for, what you're missing. It's also where your decision is going to be posted once it's available. It's really important to get on that page. But really up front is just going to be your application and your transcripts. In terms of deadlines, depends on if you're looking for spring or fall. If you're in your first semester and you're looking to apply for spring, we have a November 5th priority deadline. If you're looking to apply for the fall semester, we have 2 deadlines. We have a March 1st priority deadline and an April 15th final deadline. The priority deadlines are really important if you're thinking about applying to a competitive major. We'll talk about what those are in a little bit. But if you are thinking about one of those majors, make sure everything is in, which again includes your application and your transcripts by that priority deadline. All right, let's talk about how we review applications. First off, we use a holistic review here at UMass Amherst. And what that means is we're not just looking at your overall GPA, we're looking at a lot of factors as a part of who you are as a person, as a student, and as an applicant. So we're going to be looking at things like your personal statement is really important because that gives us a really good perspective on who you are, what you've gone through. We can look at things like a resume, letters of recommendation, which are not required, but you can submit. And we're really looking at your overall story as a person and as a student. If you're applying to a major like biology and your overall GPA isn't super strong, but you've shown that you've done really well in courses related to your major, so like math and science, that's going to show us that you're ready to go right into a biology major and be successful. In terms of selective majors, you can see them right out there. They include business, computer science, econ, engineering, informatics, kinesiology, and vet tech. If you're thinking about one of those majors, they may have specific GPA or prerequisite course requirements. Your transfer counselor, each of you will have a specific transfer counselor, can go over what those are, and if you have a competitive application or if you're missing something, what you should take, those kinds of things. In terms of your admissions decision, it's going to be posted to your student status page like I mentioned. Spring decisions are usually released around October through December, and then fall decisions are usually released sometime between March and May, depending on when you apply. All right, let's talk about the process after you've been admitted. So transfer credit, obviously that's a big part of the transfer process. There are two parts that I want you to keep in mind. First is going to be that preliminary transfer credit evaluation. That's going to come with your admissions offer. It'll tell you how many credits are transferring, and if you have to take any exams, like the writing and placement exam. Then, a couple weeks after that, you're going to get an official evaluation on SPIRE, which is the account students use at UMass. And it'll say specifically how your courses are coming over, if they're getting any equivalent courses, or completing any gen ed requirements. When it comes to financial aid, you do want to make sure you submit the FAFSA. 1 to 2 weeks after you receive your decision, you're going to get a financial aid offer from us. That's our school quota right up there if you want to add us to it. If you're applying for the spring semester, you're going to want to be submitting this year's FAFSA, which is the 2022-2023 FAFSA. If you're applying for fall, it'll be next year's FAFSA. And then once you have your decision, you'll decide if you're going to be attending. If you decide you will be, you'll complete the Your Decision form and submit the $500 non-refundable enrollment fee. All right, let's talk about some helpful resources. The first thing, if you weren't here at the transfer credit panel, we have a transfer navigator credit tool, which you can put in your courses and see how they're going to apply to your major, and as well as gen ed requirements. So it's a really great tool to get on. It's on our website. Gives you that opportunity to see how they apply. If you're in the mass transfer program, you do want to connect with your transfer counselor about transfer credit, because the navigator will have some weird things about how credit is applied. But the big thing we want to mention is to connect with your transfer counselor. That's all 4 of us right up there. I have some cards right here, and they're also on the table in the back where you can connect with your specific transfer counselor. Really recommend that because we can talk to you about a lot of different things. We can talk to you about major choices, about UMass in general, about transfer credit. We can talk about, are you on track for requirements? Are you on track to apply? When should you apply? What are your options? And really, if you're just wanting to talk out your process, like I just started thinking about transferring, it's really confusing to me. We can sit down with you in a one-on-one Zoom appointment and go into detail about those kinds of things. So we really recommend that you connect with your transfer counselor, and we can work with you throughout your process. And it's just really, I think, a really useful thing for your process. All right, so that's the end of our little short presentation, kind of an overview of the process. Do we have any questions? Yeah.
Sorry, I think I might have missed when you said this, but when do applications start for fall 2023?
Yeah, so the application itself is going to start being available for fall 2023, probably in late December or early January. But the deadlines are March 1st, which is the priority deadline, and April 15th, which is the final deadline. Yeah.
So I know the spring deadline is November 5th, the priority deadline. If you submit before the priority deadline, is your application looked at from numbers?
It is. You don't necessarily have a better chance. Anybody who gets in before the priority deadline is equal consideration. So it's not like if you apply now, you have a better chance. But if you apply now and complete your application, you'll likely get an earlier decision. Usually within 1 to 2 weeks of completing an application, you should have a decision out for you. But again, it's not, if you need more time to work on like a personal statement or anything like that, you can take more time as long as you're not late past the deadline. Any other questions? Yeah.
So community college semester, and then for this semester and the next semester, they're just gen ed, like English, math, sciences, and things like that. Can they transfer starting fall of 2023 for a sophomore year?
They can. So it can depend sometimes on the major you're applying to, just because some selective majors have specific course requirements. But as long as it's not one of those majors, totally doable to transfer for the fall if you're just taking like general education stuff.
How do we know which majors have those? It's the ones that you showed up on top?
Yeah, so it's going to be, I'll go back to right there in case anyone wants to take a picture. Yeah, so it's those majors, and if you want to talk to me afterwards, we can talk about your specific major and kind of talk about those specifics. Yeah.
I was gonna say, when applying, if you would only have if you're a second semester or first year, so you only have a high school transcript, would the classes you're taking college be considered?
So if you're in your first semester right now and you're applying, primarily looking at your high school grades, it is primarily high school that we're looking at. In some circumstances, we will ask for midterm grades to see how you're doing in your courses during the semester. It's not guaranteed that we're going to ask for that.
So you wouldn't want to, they wouldn't have to see what I'm taking now
So we do want to know what courses you're taking. So certainly want to know what you're taking, so we can know like what transfer credit you're likely going to be awarded. And if we know what you're taking and you're in a course that's really important for the major you're applying to, that can be a scenario where we ask for mention grades. So there'll be a section on the application that will ask what courses you have in progress, and we do encourage you or ask you to include the information about what you're taking. Any other questions? Yeah.
How soon can we connect with a transfer advisor?
So as soon as right now, we'll be answering questions afterwards, and I have contact information. But it's really just any point throughout your process, whether you're just in your first semester right now, whether you're in high school and you think you're going to go the community college route, whether you're in your last semester of your associate degree, ready to transfer, or any point in your process, you can start that process of talking to your transfer counselor.
So you don't have to wait until after you are admitted or applied.
Yeah, so there is a difference. So in terms of what I do as a transfer counselor, I advise you up until you're basically enrolled in UMass. And then it switches over through new student orientation, where you meet with your academic advisor, who helps you do things like select classes for your upcoming semester and things like that. Before that point, totally worth reaching out to your counselor and working with them.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so the UMass interchange program, which is if you're at another UMass school like UMass Lowell, if you're eligible for it, then you use the comment. Any other questions? One of the things that I do also like to kind of mention is about the personal statement. We get a lot of questions about this. Unlike maybe when you apply in high school, the personal statement for transfer students doesn't have a prompt. So if you're on there and you're like, what question am I supposed to be answering? There isn't one, don't worry, you're not missing it. So really a lot of times we ask students to write about why they want to transfer, or why they want the major that they're applying to, but you're not restricted to those topics. Really what you want to keep in mind about that personal statement is, what do you want the person reviewing your application to know when they're reviewing your application? That isn't going to be available by me just looking at your transcript. And I can talk in more detail about that if people have questions about the personal statement, just like mentioning that in case that comes up. All right, well, unless there are any other questions, we'll hang out here. My colleague Morgan Dunn Hall will also be here and answer some questions about any questions you might have about transferring. But otherwise, thanks for coming, and I hope you have a great rest of your fall visit day.